Today we have a Kel Tec P32. There's going to be a couple upgrades we're going to do today, and they should be fairly simple. The first one is we're going to replace the recoil spring guide rod. Stock as it is, the guide rod is made out of plastic, and I've sourced a stainless steel version that I'm going to put in. Second is we're going to change the hammer spring. We got a Galloway Precision reduced power hammer spring, and it says it should reduce the trigger pull from 1.5 to 2 pounds, and so we'll see what happens. Currently, I've ran about 100 rounds through this pistol, and everything's kind of broken in quite nicely. So next, we're going to do a test and see what the average trigger pull is on this pistol. What we're going to do first is release the mag. Make sure we're clear, no bullet in the chamber. And I have a Wheeler digital gauge, and I have it set to the average setting. Kind of a tight fit for the P32, so we get there, 4 pounds 10, gonna enter. Got 4 pounds 3, gonna enter that. Do one last one. This is 4 pounds 4 for an average of 4 pounds 6 ounces. All right, everybody. So the next phase in what we're going to do is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to replace the recoil spring guide rod. This is probably the simplest thing we can do. Let's get the magazine out of there. Then we're going to take this little slide pin right here, pop it out. I like to use a spudger just so I don't damage the slide right there. I'm kind of particular about stuff like that. And now that we have the slide here, I sourced mine from eBay. It's a stainless steel guide rod. I just wanted to change this out because this is plastic, and I'll show you the thing. So it's just essentially just a little stainless steel guide rod here. I just feel a little bit better knowing that I have an actual piece of metal in there. So fits in perfectly. You can see right here, this is the factory plastic one. It's got a little bend to it. I'd rather just have metal parts. So that's the first thing we're going to do. This is the easiest little upgrade you can do to the gun. And let's see, what we're going to do now is we're going to take the pins out so we can release the mechanism inside so we can change out the hammer spring. Some people will use the 3D printed models, but I just have a little piece of blue painter's tape. Works for me. The size of the punch we're going to use is an 1/8 inch. Essentially what we're going to do, you don't really have to tap very, very hard. I'm just going to use this little hammer that I have. Doesn't require a lot of pressure. Set this aside. Now this is the trickier one if you're going to use the tape method like I have here. And sometimes if you get it out just enough, oh, that was easier than I thought it was going to be. All right. So now that we have these two, sorry guys, just trying to organize my work surface here. Now that we have this ready to go, we can go proceed to the next part to remove this part. Okie dokie, so what we're going to do next is, now we're going to change out the hammer spring here. It's attached to the hammer seat right here. So now what we're going to have to do is kind of remove it. So I'm just using this little thing I have from my electronics repair kit. You can use a variety of things. Essentially what we're going to do is just kind of move this over and twist it, and now that part is able to be removed. So here's the rest of the frame right here. Now what we're going to do, now that we have this cut out, not cut out, sorry, but removed, now we're going to remove the internal frame. Kind of got to lift up on it a little bit. Just make sure not to, some of these parts are under pressure, sorry, I can't speak. Lift up here. And we're going to move the spring out of the way. There we go. All right. So now what we're going to do is we have access to the hammer spring now. So we're going to use a little punch here to remove the little catch thing. It's a 3/32. Make sure to keep everything here very close together as is, because they are under tension. So just be wary of that. You have to have a little bit of touch to it. So we're going to take our 3/32 punch, and let's see, might be easier to hit it from the side. Okay, let's push that out, and now give access to the hammer itself. So I'm going to set this part aside, and here's our hammer assembly right here. And here we have the new reduced power hammer spring we're going to put in there. Take this out. Now what we're going to do is we have this little part right here, this little bar that holds the hammer spring in place. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out some tweezers to remove that part. I think I'm going to use got a pair of heavy duty ones, and we're going to see if that works, and if not, we'll just switch to the smaller ones. Release a little bit of pressure, and it's kind of a trial and error here. Is this little bar, we essentially just need to like pop it out just enough so we can release the spring, or just pull it out here. There we go. All right, that's the first thing we're going to do. And the way that I like to work is I like to go ahead and change these parts out as I can. You can see that the hammer spring for the Galloway kit, it is a lot of reduction here. It's shorter. And so what you want to do is kind of remember the orientation of this. And so I'm sitting here. What we're going to do with this end right here, essentially we're going to take the spring, and then we're going to insert the bar here. Press down a little bit, and there we go. Perfect. All right, so that's all set and ready to go. All right, everybody, I just want to show you up close the new hammer spring in place. It took a little bit of finagling. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer there. It took a little bit of finagling to get this little pin out with the punches. I ended up having to use like a little piece of metal with a screw size hole in it to kind of let it sit in place. I had to like kind of jimmy up a little tool to remove the pin and then put the spring back in. And it was not worth the time it really wasn't worth it. I would recommend getting one of the 3D printed tools, gunsmith tools from M-Carbo or anywhere else. It'll make your life a lot easier. Again, this was really hard to get out because this section is raised, the pin is right here at the end, and it took a lot of kind of goofing around to try to get it out, but I managed to do it. So now that this is all set, we're going to continue with the reassembly. Okay, everybody, now that we have our hammer spring attached back to the hammer, we're going to install this back into the frame here. So what we're going to do here is put this back in here, and there's a multitude of different ways you can go about doing this. I'm just going to get it as close as possible. Just put it in there. And then from here, it's just like a matter of just kind of taking a look at the other side and kind of getting it in there. So pretty simple, straightforward. And we want to have this flush on this side because it will stick out here because we have this little gap right here. So you can do this by hand. It depends on how many rounds you've had through the pistol, but that's a good starting point. And so the reassembly, there's one thing to think about and consider. We got a little hammer catch here. And so once we install the upper frame into the actual grip, I'm going to show you what to do. So the first thing to do is to install your frame assembly kind of vertically like this, so this can actually enter it. Because if you try to set it in right here, you're not going to get clearance. So it's going to be easier to set it in here, give a little twist-a-rooney, and then set all this down. And you also want to make sure to keep your hands on these tension set parts. And so essentially what we're going to do is we got the hammer catch right here. So hopefully you can see this on the video. Here it's 100%, here it's not. So what we're going to do, I'm going to take a spudger. You can use, if you have like a small screwdriver, that's a very small one, you can set it in the back here. I like to use a spudger. I like to use spudgers for most of my work like this, so you don't scratch any parts. So that's just me. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the spudger and we're going to press in here, and simultaneously we're going to press down. So what we're going to do is press down like this. And what you want to do is take the hammer right here and put it at 12 o'clock. So we'll put it in this position so it can catch. And then we're going to press again on this, and then press down at the same time. And then, let's see, it still didn't sit flush. So it might take you a few times to do this. And it's just trial by error. So, you might have to just spend a little extra time here. This is a very touch sensitive thing. Because you're golfers, you'll understand that touch is quite important when it comes to putting. And take that same discipline as in putting into here. This is very kind of like a, there we go. All right. So what we can see here, and I don't have enough light, apologize for the lack of light, but at a certain point, the hammer is going to completely sink in with this hammer catch right here. And then what we can do is we can take these little thingamabobs here and put them back in it. And a lot of times you can take it and use your fingers. Some of them you might have to kind of press in a little bit, and then just check the fitment here. I prefer not to use a hammer or anything or a punch with these because you don't really necessarily need to, and there's not a lot of pressure here. So once you have this perfect, just do a quick little pull and we're in there. But the caveat is that when you do that, you're going to reset this. So what I'm doing here, once we have that set in straight, press the barrel back, and then we're just going to put this pin in here. Should be all set. So again, nothing in the barrel. We're going to do a little pull right here just to make sure everything's all set, and it's not. I'm going to set it again, and it's still not. So this is the thing about the precision part of this job, is that this hammer catch back here has to be perfectly in sync. And so essentially what that's going to take is we're going to need to go in here and take the little end of the spudger. And we might have to take out the pins again. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. So when you do this job, and like we're going through all these mistakes just to make sure that, if you run into these mistakes, you know exactly what to do. So we're going to go ahead and take this stuff out. Set this aside. I'm going to take this one, and we're going to pop this one out. Set this aside. So what we need to do, take the big spudger here, lift up just a little bit, and you can see the hammer goes down. We're going to take the little spudger. We're going to press the little hammer catch forward and press back down on it. And it might take a couple of tries to do this if you're not used to doing this kind of work. So you're going to press it forward. And once we find that's still not there. It sits flush with the little pinhole, but it's not going to be 100%. And it's trial and error. Make mistakes. It's okay. It's not going to be a big deal. What we're going to do is take this, push it forward, and we're going to have to lift up again. So again, I'm just showing you all this in the event that you run into this situation. So we're going here again. Press that catch forward. Oh, you can hear the click. It went all the way back. So it might take a couple of times. Don't beat yourself up over it. Oh no. You gotta laugh at yourself sometimes, because if you don't, then you're just gonna drive yourself crazy and get upset. And it's not gonna be fun. And these projects are fun. So we're gonna take the hammer back at 12 o'clock again. Open her back up here. Press down. And we're caught in there. So next what we're gonna do, in here, this is why I made this, this is why we decided to do it this way, because the little, the hammer plastic right here at the bottom is not engaged. So it's going to lose, there's no tension on it, and it's not going to work. So that's why I wanted to show you guys this right now. Because if you're sitting there and you're watching this video, trying to do this thing, and if you're pausing and something happens, at least you know where to go. So we're going to go with the spudger and get these flush in here. Now this is the hardest, this is arguably the hardest part of doing this thing, is when you put the new hammer in here. You're going to want to take your spudger, take something similar, and just kind of like press down upon it. And it might take a couple of tries, but you want to press down upon it, and then you're going to get some, it might take a, like I was saying, it's under tension, and just press down and twisty, do a little McTwist there, and then do a little pop-a-rooney. And this might take a couple tries. Again, don't beat yourself up over it. And here we go. We're sitting flush right now. And so the big test to do right now is to just do like a half pull. It looks good. Everything here looks good. Pull the trigger. Everything is engaging. And then when you look here, everything's all set. Oops, dropped it right there. It happens. Mistakes happen. But the great thing about mistakes is that they seem pretty intense at first, but then after a while, you learn from them. And that's the fun thing about doing these kind of DIY projects. Now what we're going to do, we're ready to put the slide back on. So put the slide back on, press forward a little bit, and we're going to put the pin in right here. And so one thing I've noticed, again, no bullets in there. We're just doing a clean check. What I've noticed about this is, and we're going to do a trigger pound test, and I'm going to show you, but this part right here sticks out way far, and it's that kind of concerned me at first. And we're going to do a trigger pull test with this stainless steel rod in here, and I'll show you what's happening. Alrighty, so I wanted to show you all here with the stainless steel pin. It sticks out quite far, and so let's do a couple of pound tests and see what happens here. I'm gonna get the old wheeler on, the trusty wheeler, and let's run about 3 pulls and see what happens. 4.64. We're going to enter that. Going to do one more. We got 5.5, which is more than what we had before. I'm going to enter that one. And then we're going to do one more, one final one. 5.13. 5 pounds, 13 ounces. That just doesn't seem right. Let's do one more. We had 1 4 pound, and let's see what happens. 5 pounds, 10 ounces. So we have a trigger pull weight of 5.5 pounds. That's not what we're looking for right now. And so I'm not sure what the tolerances are of this stainless steel guide rod, but I think this is the culprit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this, we're going to remove the guide rod, and we're going to do another trigger pull test. Alrighty, so what we're going to do is we're going to put the stock recoil bar back in. This is a very simple thing to do. Pop it off right here, and we're going to put the old one in. This one sticks out so far to the point where it seems unnatural. When you put these up side by side, I'm going to do it on the table just for my own interest, but the stainless steel rod is just slightly longer. Kind of hard to see. I hope you guys can see this. I'm going to try my best here to do the size difference, but the stainless steel rod is slightly longer. So what we're going to do is install the old one. Quite simple. Put it back on the frame. Let's see. Bring the hammer up just a little bit. There we go. Okie dokie. Sure that's all set there. Some of these tolerances, you're going to find it. I'm not perfect. I'm trying to show you the way. All right, so we have this back in here. Again, we're going to do a check. No bullets, and it feels considerably lighter. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take the pull tester and see what happens. Alrighty, now that we have the new spring completely installed and ready to go, we're going to do a little trigger test and see. Again, always make sure to check your firearms are unloaded. We got 1 pound 13. We got 1 pound even. £1 pound 7 ounces. I'm going to do one more because that seems like kind of a light pull to me, but we'll see. At 1 pound 2 ounces, all right. So around 1 pound 4 ounces trigger pull, which is not bad for this little gun. With the caliber that we have here versus that trigger pull, it certainly is a lot smoother. The original spring was it had more of a hard wall, kind of like similar to a Glock. But now it has a kind of a more smooth, fluid and dynamic pull. In conclusion, that's the process that I used to change out the hammer spring. The hardest part I encountered was getting the actual spring out and putting the new one in. And it's just a matter of having the right tool at your disposal. I would highly recommend getting one of the gunsmithing 3D printed tools. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier and cause a lot less stress. I was able to kind of rig up something at home and it worked, but it was definitely not worth the time that I had to put into it. Overall, I'm quite pleased with the results. The gun has more of a more fluid trigger pull. The wall is less harsh, and it's just smoother overall. We got a reduction of probably about, I'd say conservatively, 2-ish pounds out of it, which is really good. And I'm quite pleased with the results. I'm going to take this to the range and try it out, and I'm sure that it's going to be quite a different pistol. Overall, Um, this process worked for me, and I hope it works for you if you attempt it yourself. If you have any questions or comments, please drop below, like, and subscribe. Thank you all.